This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you're enjoying this interview. Here comes part 3. Hey, thanks for listening.
It was really important to me that Cobb's be a place where it was sort of like Cheers, you know? It was like a place where you'd go to feel at home and, you know, hang out, have a beer, shoot the shit, and, you know, and relax, you know, just relax. You know, we had poker games every Monday. You know, we had a regular Christmas party. We had a regular Halloween party. We would just have parties, and I would literally give, you know, beers away, you know, and stuff to people. Comics were well taken care of. They never paid for their food or their beverages. You know, we just had a place where people could just go to and even just hang out. You had a rough night at another club, come over here and hang out and relax and, you know, let it go away, you know. So that's the big thing for me, was making everybody feel, you know, at home, that, you know, was respectful of the club and respectful of what we were trying to do.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, Tom. And I didn't realize how much we had in common, because if you treat your staff as family, they're going to stay around. If you have fun, everybody works harder because they get invested in the business like it's their own, which is something I always preached. You know, you're spending so much time at work as much as you spend at home. Treat it like your home, you know, keep it clean, be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, one of my other things is no wasted trips. If you're walking through the showroom and you see a dirty plate, doesn't matter if you're not a busser, pick it up. But it's the family part. You know, for us, we had bowling night and we had boat trips. And once a year after a big hard weekend, I would rent a houseboat and take all the staff out for a weekend. I rented buses and took everybody to water parks, but it was the after hours parties that you mentioned that we did a lot of, and the trips and the treating people like family, that exactly the staff stays around. You build that family atmosphere, and then the comics love that, because at the corporate clubs, they're just the meat on the stage for that night or that week. And nobody gave a shit what they did, you know, when they weren't on stage. For us, we were
close the doors, get the hell out of the building.
Right,
you know?
right. But we were building relationships with these guys because of the after parties and the backstage conversations. And like you said, it probably wasn't smart financially, but I always had an open bar for my staff and comics after the show. I mean, it was as much fun for me. And I wasn't that much older. I mean, I started my club when I was 24, so I was a kid myself. And it was turning up the music because it's your place. What the hell? You know, like you said, cranking the tunes and having some fun. So I'm really glad that I didn't know that we shared that in common. And I think that's another reason why you were such a success at Cobb's, because you treated the comics and your staff as family. So congratulations on that. And I know that you got as much out of that as I did. And I do agree that that's the best part of being a club owner. Now, you've gone through a lot of transitions, as I have. I think one of the biggest challenges or changes for you, I won't say challenge until people go see your movie, but going from a 200-seat room, which I think is ideal, to a 400-seat room had to be a difficult time for you. But, you know, as an entrepreneur, you aspire to grow. Did you find answers, or what would you recommend to people that are thinking of, you know, opening a 400 or 500 seat room compared to 200?
No. I tell them no.
Okay, no. That's short and succinct and absolutely true.
If Tom Sawyer today could tackle Tom Sawyer of 2004, 2003, he would be welcome to do so, because it really, I honestly think the comedy club should be no more than 275 seats. That's like the absolute max, you know, in that ballpark. the thing about 400 was, again, anytime you had less than, 200 people, it looked like a disaster. And that was when I was like when I came to that revelation that I could literally I could take Cobb's in the cannery and have that be sold out like all week long and lose money because I needed to have 275 to make money. And coming to that revelation was just frightening. I mean, when I had that epiphany, I was having cold sweats every night. I never had cold sweats in my life. I had cold sweats every day. Because this is the other thing people don't realize about a nightclub, is we book shows way in advance. We book shows like, 3, 4, 5, 6 months in advance because we want to nail down our talent, because some of these guys are in demand. So you got to, you're booking some people, you're booking them for, twice a year. So you're giving them the 2 dates that they have for the year, then and there. And if that guy is a disaster or he's or he doesn't draw, then you're stuck with him. And it's the same thing with the comedy club. I already booked like the first 4 months at this club, and I knew from the first month that we were open that most of those shows would be a disaster, financially a disaster. And I was going to lose, not make money, but I was going to lose money on those shows. So I'm having a panic attack, not just for what's going on that day, but for what's going to be happening like 2, 3, 4 months down the road. And by the time I figured out, which was 1 month, into it, what I needed to do to change direction, it's like steering the Titanic away from the iceberg. It's not something you go, oh, there's an iceberg. Let's just turn the ship and get away from it. No, it takes a long time to turn the Titanic away from the iceberg, and you're going to hit the iceberg. And we hit the iceberg with a 400-seat room. And it was one of the reasons what led us to reach out to Live Nation. We also reached out to Another Planet, but they were really slow on the uptake. And Live Nation sent the A-team. They sent Jeff Wills out and the I forget the name of the fellow who was general manager of the Punchline at the time, but they knew the business and they were really nice. And Another Planet didn't really know the business. And at the time I felt more comfortable because I was hearing all the right things from Live Nation. They wanted to open up more rooms. They wanted to be, and I was going to be the guy. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to have an amazing career. I'm going to be, I'm going to be like Johnny Appleseed and making all these little Cobbs of the punchlines around the country and developing the comics that I wanted to develop and develop them the way I wanted to develop and have these rooms develop and the relationships that we were talking about earlier when you're great staff and great shows and all these things. I had this complete ludicrous vision of grandeur that was popped the day I walked into the Live Nation offices and saw that the guy who was president of Live Nation SF had Yankee blue on and Yankee stuff all over his office. And you have to understand, I'm a Red Sox fan, born and raised in Rhode Island.
Always
and
comes
the Red
back
Sox
to baseball.
Just won in 2004. They had just beaten the Yankees 4 straight, never been done in history. The Yankees were demolished, like emotionally demolished in 2004 by the Red Sox. And here I'm walking with my Red Sox jacket on and my hat and this guy's looking at me like I just shat on the carpet, like right down, and took my pants off and just took a big steamer right on his desk. And that relationship was shit right out of the gate.
Oh, geez, what a bad way to get off on the wrong foot. But it's funny. My wife's a huge baseball fan, and she goes, it always comes back to baseball. That's a great story. I sorry that you went into that, and I want to bring up Live Nation in just a second. But before we leave that club that you did rebuild after a tragic fire, and make sure you guys go see the Comedy Club, the movie that's out, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But I wanted to just club owner to club owner give you credit, because as an entrepreneur, you do want to aspire, and I'm sure in your mind's eye that a 400-seat room would be great, but there's a couple basics that you need to know about building a comedy club. One is you need to try to keep the ceiling low. You want to keep the seating at a level where you can make money but not make it feel empty, or be able to divide it with a curtain or something. But one of the things I really liked about that room is the stage set that you used, because my clubs were always old school brick. I was in an old building that actually had the old brick. My first club, it was a black curtain, and then the main club, it was actually brick because it was an old brick building. And then when I had to move, I was forced and had to move and build a location. I made some of the same mistakes. I made it a little bit bigger, which meant it wasn't as full. I had the ceiling a little too high, but I built a really nice stage set. Mine was more of a city streetscape. Yours was like an artistic living room. I just wanted to say, from an artistic point of view, and for the comics to have somewhere to play, I appreciated the size and the design that you put into that stage set.
Yeah, that was super fun. It was really, we actually put a lot of energy and a lot of we looked for set designers, actually people who worked on plays, and we found. I wish I could remember the woman's name. A great German set designer. She's out of LA now, but she did an amazing job, and you'll see it in the documentary of the stage. Which, by the way, when Live Nation took it over, they took it out. They didn't even discuss it with me. It was really that was like another thing.
No, they took it out.
Yeah. And just put a black curtain behind the thing.
You're kidding.
No,
I didn't know that. I hadn't been to that club.
Yeah.
That's just tragic.
Yeah, we put this amazing work into this stage, which was so much fun. What's again really ironic about that stage was comics either loved it or hated it, but the comics who hated it got so much mileage out of coming on stage and making fun of it. It was hilarious. I would afterwards, I go, dude, you got 10 minutes out of your hour making fun of the stage and the audience laughing at it. You got material out of it. That's what it was there for. That's why I did it. Jesus. It's sort of like, I didn't mention this, but in the 80s, we had an opportunity to buy the Holy City Zoo. We bought it, but we couldn't use the name. So a bunch of comics, we all sat around thinking of a name, and we all decided we wanted to come up with a name that was so bad it was funny. And I think it was Greg Travis who came up with the name Ha Ha A Go Go. And
I remember that. Durst was a big part of that.
Yeah, and we laughed. We were on the floor laughing, and so that's what we went with. We had a cartoon balloon thing, Ha Ha A Go Go. And then the Chronicle goes to opening night. They review the club, go, worst name of a comedy club ever. Whoever came up with that name should be, throttled. And it's like, dude, it is the worst name ever. That's the joke. Don't you hate it when somebody actually mentions the thing that you're, why don't you ask? Why don't you even ask? Who came up with this name? It's the worst name ever. And then we all go, yes, that's the point. The worst name ever. It's supposed to be funny. It's so bad, it's funny. People don't get the joke.
Oh, that is such a great, vision that you just shared, is that when dealing with the press or reviewers, or even corporate people coming in and ripping apart a beautiful stage set, they don't get it sometimes. And instead of talking to you so that they understood, if Live Nation sat down and said, this is why do you have this stage set? And you go, well, it gives them an area to play, and it gives them something to make fun of, and it gives them room to do this. Maybe they would have gotten it, but they don't bother asking. And the same with Ha Ha Go Go. I've talked to Durst about this. It was such a creative idea. The fact that you couldn't use the Holy City Zoo, which I still don't understand that, because I know Durst got the sign. But the fact that you went with that, to me, is hilarious. and still shares that it's a comedy club. I mean, there is some semblance. It was funny because in your movie, somebody jokes, one of the comics is saying, Cobb's, how does that relate to comedy at all? And you created the word Cobb's through history to make that equate with comedy. But the Holy City Zoo was, again, one of those names that didn't really lend itself to comedy, but it built itself into that name. Ha Ha A Go Go at least gives you a semblance of an idea of what's going on inside. So it's just crazy how people miss what's right in front of their face.
Yeah. Well, well, again, it's the whole thing about humor. Humor is risk. Great humor is great risk. That's the thing. It's like I always have these guys who kill. They come to your club, they kill, but you can't even remember a joke that they did, a week later. And then they go, or they're feature acts, and they go, "Hey, I kill every time I come to the club," and then why don't I headline? Well, it's not that you kill; it's how you kill. It's how you make the audience laugh that's important. It's if you go the easy route, but no one's going to remember you. If you're making people laugh and you're Sam Kinison or you're, John Oliver, and you're talking about heavy stuff and you're making it funny. Russell Brand being mystical on stage and making it hilarious. All these people that do all these things. Rita Rudner was the most deadpan person on stage, hilariously funny. You get all these people that go on stage and they're unique because they are their unique self, and you're just going up there being Johnny Generic. Well, I'm sorry. There's really, look at the calendar. Look at who's played the club. Who's Johnny Generic? Who's you?
Yeah, who
Where's
stands
the guy
out?
that you? Yeah, everybody stands out. You're going, wow, it's so amazing the people that are playing here. Well, it's amazing the people that are playing here because they're amazing comics. That's what you got to become. You got to become an amazing comic. And the road you're on right now is you're going to be the serviceable guy. You're the guy that headlines in a pinch because he'll do the job. So is that who you want to be, or do you want to be somebody who stands out?
That's such great advice and so important for any artist or talent to think about. Tom, you're sharing so much important stuff. Thank you so much. Hey, I wanted to touch on a couple things. I know as a club owner, because I went through it, ups and downs financially, I ended up selling my club, and I was able to cash out in a good way. By the way, side story, when your stage, they went in and stripped it down without talking to you. I sold my club, and I had gone to great expense to put in a really nice hand-carved oak bar. And within 2 weeks of buying the club, the guy that bought it ripped out this really special antique custom bar and put in like this really bad acrylic thing that everybody stuck to. And it was like, why would you take out, something that had meaning and had style?
Character. It gives that people look forward to when they come into. It's like,
just makes you cringe. But when you were going through the financial ups and downs of being an owner, Live Nation and you come to an agreement, did that help you get whole and maybe make some money selling to Live Nation?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
My just put it this simply, my ex-wife, who we were still partners after we were divorced, which is another story. We 7 years of our 17-year partnership, we were married, and the other 10 we were divorced. So, but we still had to figure out how to work together. So, which we did, and we eventually have become even better friends than we were when we were married. So, in fact, my wife and my ex-wife and my current wife are really good friends. So, so
that's
they get to talk.
Good for you personally.
Yeah. Again, I try not to burn bridges. So, it's I don't forget. I got off on a little tangent.
Well, I'll try to make it a more succinct question. It had to be a big decision to sell to Live Nation, but because part of the contract,
how do we do? Right. Yeah.
Part of the contract was you staying on. So maybe share with the audience, because I've been through it, so I know, but share with the audience what it meant to you.
Well, I'll put it this way. And this is where I was going with the ex-wife analogy. My ex-wife hasn't worked since we sold the club, so let's put it that way. We did well. So she never worked again. She bought a little cabana in the mountains of Mexico, and out she got actually 3 cabanas there, and then she has a house in Wisconsin. And so she likes to travel around the country in her camping van. And so we did well.
So financially it was rewarding. And then for you personally, going from club owner to booker, you've related to it earlier. And I know it's in the movie, which we're going to talk about next, but how challenging was it? And at the same time, you did have a career for the next 7 years. So good and bad, right?
Yeah, well, it was good. It was good in the sense that because I had the leverage of Live Nation, we had some people I might not have had if it was just me in that room. Jeff Wills, who is the guy I was working for technically, is a very competitive guy. I mean, we had a very good relationship when we were on opposite teams, mainly because we respected each other, and I still do. I think the guy's brilliant. I just wish he worked for a better company. But we respected each other. We kept each other's ground. We were, we were competitive. And so here you go, 2 competitive guys now that are working together. That part was great. That part was awesome because we were both like guys who were obsessed with being number one at what we were doing. So that was really good. We had some amazing, amazing shows there. And I really appreciate that part of it. And I actually, the guy who was the Yankees guy eventually got shit canned. And the next 2 people were good. The current person was really nice. Jody Goodman. She's an awesome person. But the whole organization, as far as I'm concerned, when you put people second, and this is probably what's wrong with just about everything in this country, when you put your investors or your stockholders first and the people who work for you second, everybody gets that. Everybody understands that you're a thing and you're not a person anymore. That feels awful. That is terrible. And it's not, it doesn't make for a good place to work when you feel that you could be easily replaced tomorrow, by at least on their minds, And so I was actually kind of done when we parted ways. And so it wasn't a big emotionally for me as it probably would have been. I mean, it sucks getting let go no matter, what position you are, but I had kind of been done there because they weren't coming through at their end of the bargain. We weren't opening new clubs. I was doing the same thing over and over again, except I wasn't doing a lot of my favorite things about it, like working with the staff and working with young comics, so it wasn't as rewarding for me as the days on Chestnut Street or the days in the Cannery. It was working with people who really didn't, for the most part, didn't seem to give a shit about you. And that message was loud and clear.
Well, I have to just give a comparison. When I sold my club, I was supposed to stay on. The guy that bought me out broke the contract. We ended up in a lawsuit, and I had to do a cold turkey out of the comedy world. And that was really difficult. I had a tough, 6 months. My wife would say 6 years, but it was tough for me to be forced out of that world that I just love and appreciated so much. And it was, I did fine financially. It wasn't about the money. It was leaving the comedy world at that point was challenging. I'm kind of appreciative and a little envious that you were not only to get out strongly financially, but be able to continue in the business for another 7 years, even though it wasn't as personally rewarding for you. At least you had a chance, like you said, to let it get old and stale, so it wasn't a big deal to get away from. Congratulations on that. I know that it wasn't something that you particularly planned, but I think that your entry into the world of comedy, your life in the world of comedy, and your exit in the world of comedy, whether you know it or not, was really good. It was accidentally well planned out. And that's just my opinion. I don't know how you feel, but I think you did good. Now, you came out with this movie. I want to talk about it. We've mentioned it a few times. It's called The Comedy Club. You can see it on Amazon, Freezy. It was released in 2021. My question,
actually, is a really good way to do it because it's free and you don't have to pay anything. Is like Tubi or Plex. Those sites, you don't have to pay anything. You just download the app and you can watch the film.
So I just a couple quick questions. I want you to explain the film to this documentary to the audience. But I was curious because it's about you losing your club at the Cannery due to a tragic fire, and your heart and soul that you put into the new room that ended up making your life a little challenging, but it was your room. You designed it. That happened many years before the movie was released. Maybe explain the movie and then how it came about.
Well, it basically came about. David Schendel, who is a documentary filmmaker who made the documentary Yank Tanks, came up to me and said, "Hey, Howard Meehan, Michael Meehan, who's a friend of mine, said that you guys are reopening, and I was wondering if we could do a documentary." And I was saying, sure, whatever. It was supposed to be like kind of a short documentary, the building of a comedy club kind of thing. And so I said, sure. We signed releases and stuff like that. And we had these cameras around all the time when we were building Cobb's, which is on Columbus Avenue. So if you're a fan of that club and you're a youngster and, you don't know kind of the history, it's really a good movie to check out because you'll see how this club got built. And you'll also know the history of the club that you're going to. It stays on the Cannery and on Chestnut Street. So, so David came up to me. It was going to be a short film, and Carolyn and I agreed to that this would be fine. And so they started filming, and eventually David just found more and more stuff to make it, to put in the film. And it went from being a short, his version was being a short documentary to being a feature length documentary. It's an hour and a half long. And then, what helped was he found some rare footage of Robin at Cobb's on Chestnut Street, and that's in the film. And then you got all this stuff with, Saget and,
Carvey.
There's so many people, Carvey, Dana Carvey, Paula Poundstone,
Mark Pitta,
Kevin Pollack, Kevin Nealon, Mark Pitta, Bill Maher, Arj Barker, George Wallace. I mean, all these people are in the film. It gives you a lot of history. There's a lot of drama to it, a lot of the stuff about my folks is in there, and it's a little tough for both of us to watch. I've been to 3 film festivals and did Q&A afterwards. The hardest part is like watching the part with when we went through with my folks, and they came back. Actually, their first time that we had a reunion was opening night of the Columbus Avenue Club, and that's in the film as well. So
I thought it was really funny that the doorman didn't want to let him in. You're Tom's parents. Oh, yeah. That would have been embarrassing. Do you have a ticket? No, we're on the guest list. I don't see your name. Well,
what
was the delay in the release? Just him doing his editing and putting it all together, or did they have trouble with distribution?
Well, the delay in the delay in the release is was it had changed plans several times, and then it needed money to finish it. With it's a very low, it's pretty low budget, but it's like really well done considering the budget. in general, it's just well done. But I think it was one of those things where it was like, who's this guy? You know, it's not like I had been famous outside of San Francisco, you know, and you know, the producers of the film they were trying to convince me I should go on a killing spree to get a little publicity for the film. Maybe if he was a serial killer and a comedy club owner, that would sell some tickets.
That's hilarious, Tom.
But the pandemic actually helped us out in finding a distributor because content. Everybody was dying for content, and here we are. We have this movie, and it's actually pretty entertaining, you know.
Well, when it comes to name dropping, it comes to name dropping and seeing people when they were young, it's a great movie for that. I was envious that you have the movie because I produced 2 TV series and I have a lot of great professionally shot footage of people when they were just getting started, but I don't have a movie to put it in. I thought that this was a genius way to tell your story, and everybody needs to go.
Hearing that, documentary filmmakers out there, there's a crazy amount of footage in this guy's basement.
Well, everybody should go watch The Comedy Club. Not only will they learn how you, Tom Sawyer, were so important to the industry, but how you personally put yourself and your family and your staff and everybody, your right-hand man, through this process of going through the tragedies and yet the rebuilding, the rebirth, the phoenix out of the fire, literally, to keep Cobb's going. And this movie is free and available on Freezy. It's on Amazon. Everybody should go check it out. Yeah.
Tubi and Plex. And actually, if you want to hear what I'm doing currently on my website, TomSawyerVoices.com, has all the stuff about Cobb's, the history about Cobb's, has stuff about the documentary and where you can watch it. Also has a lot of my voice over stuff that I'm doing, my favorite auditions, my demos are on there. So you can hear what I'm doing right now. I'm really having a lot of fun doing voiceover. And
well, I think, Tom, you're psychic, because that was where I was going next. So first off, I'll put the webpage on the show notes, so everybody will be able to find the webpage. But that was my next series of questions is, you run a club for a couple decades, you book a club for a decade, you get out, you transition. How did you become a voice actor? And you're pretty good. I think your Vincent Price is right on.
Oh, you're flattering me too much there.
How did you get into voice acting, and how is that fulfilling your need for a creative outlet in business?
I started out in Florida. When I went to Florida, I got really involved with theater. I did a lot of community theater, a lot of dinner theater. So I was in about a dozen plays while I was out there in the 4 years I was out there. And so I really liked acting. And then when Cobb's happened, that part of my life was put on hold. And when I stopped doing Cobb's, I went through my woe is me phase. And then I was like talking to some people, and I was talking to Carlos Ellis Rocky.
Oh, great.
And who's the voice of the Taco Bell Chihuahua and the voice of Rocco and Rocco's Martin World, and many other things. God, he's one of the voiceover legends, as well as
he's
Tom Kenny.
He's prolific, still working. Yeah.
Tom Kenny was like one of the biggest names in voiceover, does SpongeBob. And they were like, "Hey, dude, you do so many voices and impressions and stuff. That you should get into voiceover." And I looked for a school or looked for a place where I could learn voiceover. And lo and behold, there was a place in Sausalito that's one of the best in the country, Voice Tracks. And I went there, and and from there I went and got signed by JE Talent in San Francisco and Aperture Talent in LA. And it's not. I'm not doing. I'm not doing the big business right now that I am. But everything's. I'm failing upward, I should say.
Well,
I'm getting Pixar auditions now, and I'm getting Disney auditions, and I'm getting Nickelodeon auditions. So
Tom, that's amazing. I'm so envious, because one of the things as we get to our age and you're looking for that next adventure, you found it by getting back to your roots in acting and then taking your original talent as a comic, which was doing impressions, and getting back to the nut of your talent and getting into voice work, which is, by the way, I, as a producer and working a lot with Hollywood, know that it's very difficult to get into that voiceover club or clique. And what you did by going through the training and then already getting listed with a couple agencies, I'm so envious and so jealous. That's awesome. But you're right. I had a chance to work with Tom Kenny, and Carlos and I are still really good friends. And hooking up with two of the major voice talents in this country, Carlos Alazraqui and Tom Kenny, was a great entry into this world of voice acting. Congratulations. And it sounds like you're like you said, you're upwardly mobile.
Yeah. So, and I'm having a blast. It's so much fun, being in my little booth here and creating a character. I kind of lose myself, I just love doing auditions. I do them all from home. I have my voiceover booth. I go in there and I become the character, and coming up with crazy voices and doing things. I mean, most everybody that goes to my website and listens to my demos and my auditions and the work I've done, they go, "They're all you, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, every single one." I think there's a woman in there for one little clip, but everything else is me. And most people, they get blown away by that. They have no idea. And they go, "Can you do the guy that was the general lizard guy?" And I go, "Yeah," because they can't believe I can do it right in front of them. So,
well, I used to love when Carlos would, or Dana Carvey, who did in Kevin Pollack. I mean, anybody that does impressions and can do work like that is so fun. One of the guys that I helped develop, and we're still good friends, Stan Sellers, has made a terrific career at voice acting, and still, 5 days a week is laying down tracks for movies and TV shows, and has had an amazing career. What voice is the most fun for you? You want to give us a little taste?
I like doing the ones that are so kind of not so removed from myself, because there's one that I really like, which was the general. I forget what the series was, but you have a voice like this, and you love to talk for many minutes at a time, sometimes hours, So that's
well, that didn't sound like you at all, and yet it was perfect for a general. Awesome. Oh, wait a minute. We should. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Tom, that sounds like so much fun. I'm sure you realize it in the back of your mind, but if you're anything like me, we don't dwell on ourselves so much. But I want to tell you, as a comedy club owner peer, that you've had an incredible life. And even though there's been challenges and ups and downs, you always came out on top and had opportunities open up to you because of your dedication to the art form, to business, to everything it takes to succeed. And congratulations, you have had an amazing life, and I hope you appreciate how lucky you are. I just so awesome that you shared it with my audience. Thank you so much.
Well, I pinch myself every day, Scott. I pinch myself every day. So
yeah, you have a lot of bruises.
Yes. Well, it's my fetish.
Hey, real quick, I know you're doing the voice acting, and that's kind of your next adventure. 2024, is there anything that you're looking forward to? Any projects coming up? Have you thought of doing a book? Because you have a great story.
I've been kicking around that idea, but right now I've got I got the website up, I got the documentary out. I'm gonna get the good word out on both of those things. I'm hoping to do. My PR company is talking with Joe Rogan's people right now. I might be out in Austin, September, October, on that show. We'll see where that, I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I just take every day, every day one step at a time, one day at a time.
Well, as Peter Galke used to say, I want to live forever. So far, so good.
So good.
Well, Tom, it has been such a joy to talk to you about the business, about the art form, about our parallel lives. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, go to his website, go watch his movie, The Comedy Club, and keep an ear out for Tom Sawyer, the voice artist, as he continues his life of total success and artistic talents. Tom, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, and next week, another great show. One last big appreciation moment. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only from the famous Cobb's Comedy Club, Tom Sawyer. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that does it. You listened to all three parts of a really fun and special interview with Tom Sawyer from Cobb's Comedy Club. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tell your family and friends. Rate us if you can. Leave a review on Apple. It's a big help. We appreciate each and every listener. You guys take care, stay healthy, and have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, Your Host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.